Tripod, the official Trinity University Press podcast, invites authors, journalists, community leaders, and other guests to engage in exploratory, informative discussions on the subjects of people, places, and the planet. I'm Lily Brennan, and welcome back to another episode of Tripod, the official podcast of the Trinity University Press. Joining me today is Trinity University alumni, former KRTU station manager, and former mayor of San Antonio, Ron Nirenberg. Ron is here today to discuss the importance of learning about and connecting with your local community by exploring the messages and experiences he shares in his book, Nirenberg, The Education of a Texas Public Servant. Welcome, Ron Nirenberg.
Thanks for having me, Lily. Great to join you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I obviously already gave a little bit of an introduction to you, but if you'd want to give a short intro to yourself.
Sure. Since you are also a Trinity graduate, I'll start there. I'm a proud graduate of Trinity University, class of 1999, the previous millennium, as I usually point out to folks. Also attended the University of Pennsylvania, where I got my graduate degree at the Annenberg School for Communication. The most important thing I got from Annenberg, though, was my wife, Erica. So I'm a husband of a wonderful woman and leader in our community, proud father of a son named Jonah, and a student of the world. So,
that was a great intro, yeah.
And a public servant by heart, yeah.
Although this is our first time meeting, I feel like I already know so much about you, obviously from your book, but especially in the intro, my family is also from Boston. I have a lot of Boston family. So happy to have a fellow Red Sox fan in the studio.
It's our things are looking up for us.
Yes, absolutely.
On the diamond, as well as, I don't know if you're a Patriots fan too, but things are starting to improve there too.
But moving on from that, I wanted to, from all the connections I got at the beginning of the book and throughout, can you tell me a bit more about the process of writing the book and the expectations you had for it? Yeah,
so, the idea of a book didn't come all at once. Mm-hmm. As I've gone through my years as a city councilman and then mayor of the city, we live in a dynamic place, and during the time I served, it was probably one of the most challenging times for local civic leaders in our country's history, just the number and severity of the challenges that we're facing all at once. I really started having conversations with friends and people in the media who I respect about making sure that the story is told, because as you're going through the rhythm of the news and making sure that people have, as a journalist, the information they need to make good decisions and to survive, sometimes a little bit of the backstory gets lost. And I was just reflecting as I was coming to the end of my tenure, my hope is that, one day people in this city, people in my own family will also understand the backstory of a lot of these things. And so I wanted to relate that. And so there was some conversations and encouragement to write a book. I never thought, I'm 48 years old. The idea of a 48-year-old writing a memoir was a little bit foreign to me. I thought it was a little bit arrogant, to be honest. But then I actually had a conversation with a columnist who I admire and who's I've gotten to know as a friend. And I told him my biggest concern is that I want my son to understand that all the time I was away, where he had to sacrifice time, traditional time you would have with a father, that it was worth it. And so I told him, what I kind of want to do is just write him a letter. And so he encouraged me to think about doing that. And perhaps that would parlay into a more lengthy explanation that could maybe ultimately become a book. And so that's kind of how I approach this.
I feel like coming at this book with a journalism and radio career might have been helpful, or I'm not sure if it influenced you, but do you think that it played a part in making this book?
I think it did. I took the approach to my job as a journalist. And what that meant was, first and foremost to me, is that I wanted to make sure that people had access to the facts and the information about how decisions are impacting their lives. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make sure that people's voices were heard in the process. Those are journalism principles. And so writing a book in the same way, I approached it as someone who wanted to make sure that the salient facts about this story, which happened to be about me, came to light. And it helped me understand the things that I've been through in a way that ultimately led to where I am today. And again, it's clear in the title of the book, Education of a Texas Public Servant, those things that led up to my service for the San Antonio community, and to the point of me finishing that book, where it might lead next, which I did not know the answer to that question.
To kind of go back to just what you said about capturing the voices of people and things like that through journalism, I kind of want to explore some of the messages in your book related to people and community. And there's a quote in your book of observing with patience and curiosity about what people do and what it all means to them. How do you think others can learn that perspective?
Enjoying this episode with Ron Nirenberg? Check out their book, Nirenberg, The Education of a Texas Public Servant, now available for purchase on the Trinity University Press website and anywhere you buy books. Use Tripod's discount code, RON20, to save 20% on your purchase of Nirenberg at tupress.org.
I believe in the inherent dignity of every human being, frankly, in every living thing. And if you believe in the dignity of other people, you should give them space for self-determination. And so, people have their own occupations, they have their own hobbies, they have their own ways of living their lives. It's about self-fulfillment for each and every person. And so to really properly understand the differences of a community, what makes it tick, how you create public policy to be fair to people, you really need to be observant of what they're doing and what they want to get out of life. And so I suppose, I don't know exactly the context of where I wrote that, but that's to me the essence of both journalism and public policy, is to believe in and appreciate the dignity of other people, regardless of how different they are from you.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where in the book the quote is from either, but it reminds me, or I guess I thought it might have been generated from you talking about just walking all over San Antonio.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And this comes out in other parts, tactical elements of campaigns. I had a feature called Meet Your Neighbors, where I wanted to basically, and this was very journalistic as a candidate, a first-time candidate, I wanted to hear those stories, and I wanted to report those stories to other people. So, the members of my district, District 8, could see how diverse their neighbors are. I think it's very powerful to understand as a neighbor that the people living next door to you or across the street have different ideas about how life should work, and you have different dreams, different challenges. And so as a community and as a representative, we have to figure out decisions that will improve the lot of all of us. And so the Meet Your Neighbors feature was about that, making sure that we kind of understood not everybody is like me, and so we have to work together as a community. So yes, absolutely. As I walk the streets of San Antonio, constantly you encounter those stories. And, again, to be an effective public servant, you've got to be observant of the differences and appreciate the differences enough to want to find spaces for common ground.
I really liked the part in the book where Erica says activating the friendship group or activating your friendship group when talking about sort of beginning the campaign and how to tackle a challenge like that. I was curious kind of what that phrase means to you and how people can sort of develop that and activate their friendship group in times of need.
I'm very fortunate to have a small but really tight group of friends. And as somebody in their early 30s who thought, you know what, I think I am passionate about this city that I love. I think I have skills and knowledge enough about the community that I live in that I want to help, make it better for my son, who then was 1 or 2 years old. I had no idea what I was getting into. I had not the first clue. So activating a group of friends meant seeking guidance and encouragement from that tight circle of friends to say that your dreams are achievable, that we're going to be here to help you figure it out. And in some cases, we have skills and expertise that can be of use as you find a way to achieve your dream of public service. And so that's exactly what she meant. And we did activate our friends group, which ultimately now led me to become mayor of the city.
Your friendship group is like akin to the Marvel Avengers. It's just like you happen to have this group of people around you that was so well equipped to help you
Yeah.
in this experience.
And in some ways, that lesson of a friendship group pertains to an entire community. I found some of the most meaningful work I did as mayor of San Antonio is to get the community to believe in its own aspirations, to believe that we're worthy of our aspirations. And, it's sort of activating a community to believe that we can achieve our goals. From friendship group, a small, tight circle of friends, to a whole community, I think activating in that way is really about making you feel worthy enough of your aspirations.
On the note of activating and engaging with the community, you say that it's important to show up when and where people need to feel the presence of others, to feel that they aren't alone, which you say this in discussing attending funerals as mayor and showing up as mayor. But for those of us who don't carry that presence, how do you think we can show up for others in that way?
Being there for people, I think we undervalue just the mere act of being present in the company of someone else enough to know that they are worthy of that moment in time with you. I mean, we're always on the go. We're always, we've got our charges for the day, and we're moving around a lot. And whether you know that person well or not, just giving that person a moment of your time shows you or shows them that you believe in their worth, their dignity. So whether it's a funeral, it's a birthday party, it's just, being present in the moment.
I was kind of curious about your passion for music. It seems like that's gone through your whole life. And what do you see its place in San Antonio's culture?
Well, every community has music. San Antonio's music scene is a reflection of its diverse culture and also its Latino heritage. So in this case, jazz has such a incredible and unique sound in San Antonio. But music to me has been a constant part of my life. My mother always had music on. She was a huge fan of American music when she was growing up in Malaysia, particularly Cliff Richard, and became the president of his international fan club because she just couldn't get enough of his record albums. So she was always playing Cliff Richard. She was always playing different music. And so I grew up around music, all different kinds, mostly music from the past. And so as I was going through school, my music tastes were always 20 years behind my peers.
Yeah.
When I got to Trinity, I was still listening to the Doors. They remain my favorite
Absolutely.
band. And so, it's always been part of my life. And but being in San Antonio and working at KRTU, I've gotten an appreciation of how music, in this case jazz, is a reflection of the culture it comes from, and what an incredible artistic form jazz is.
I really only discovered jazz through Trinity. I went to one of KRTU's, I cannot remember the name of the events, but they had this huge concert series on Prassel Lawn, and I got to just see like jazz bands and stuff that was put on almost completely by students. My roommate at the time was interning with KRTU, and she helped put it together, and it was incredible. And I know now that San Antonio has a great history with jazz, but it does seem to find you no matter what your connection to jazz is when you get to San Antonio. It just is part of everything somehow.
It's America's original art form.
Yeah.
I mean, it is uniquely American. It's now international, obviously. And what I love about jazz is that, again, it reflects the culture from which it comes. And every culture has a form, a flavor of jazz. But what I love about all forms of jazz is that the real jazz.
What's real jazz? What does that mean?
Well, I'm going to get in trouble here because there is a distinction between straight ahead jazz, which we call real jazz, at least at KRTU, and then the smooth jazz, which is more pop oriented.
I see.
But the straight ahead jazz, if you listen to a tune, live or recorded, you'll never hear the same tune twice if you're listening to a performance, because it's so much built on improvisation. Even if you listen to the same scoring and song, the actual performance of the tune is different every time you hear it, and that's really cool. There's not many artistic forms that are like that.
I think the idea of improvisation and changing tactics, changing sound for every performance might answer this question, but there's a quote that says that we need more jazz cats in politics, which I loved the idea of, like a jazz, the image that comes to mind of a jazz cat is not synonymous with politics in my brain, but.
So let's put it this way. When you listen to an ensemble, a jazz ensemble perform, it is about improvisation. There's interplay between all the different members. Mm-hmm. And in that interplay, there's accommodation. No one ever plays anything wrong in jazz.
Right.
When it goes to the next performer, he or she builds on what happened before, makes it better, takes another take on it. But it gives space for expression, unlike any other form of art. And so when I say that we need more jazz cats in politics, I think we need more people who will appreciate difference and understand difference and help us make something better, beautiful through the combination of those differences. And I don't think politics right now is in that space, at least not in this state or in this country. We're avoiding difference. Difference is what makes us strong. Frankly, it's what makes life worth living.
Trinity University Press is a mission-driven publisher committed to civic engagement with timely ideas facilitated by the publication of print and digital books, related media, creative and educational programs, and other activities that help us all better understand our place in a crowded world. For more than 50 years, Trinity University Press has published more than 225 titles and organized thousands of events, all focused on broadening our understanding of many impactful subjects, from human relationships with our physical environments to social equity and justice. For more information about Trinity University Press, visit tupress.org.
I absolutely agree. And I kind of got us down a rabbit hole of talking about jazz. And
it's a good rabbit hole.
And it's a great rabbit hole. But I want to kind of get to this last sort of section of questions with Tripod's tagline as people, places, planet. Mm-hmm. And we kind of talked a bit about the voice of San Antonio with jazz as a place. But going on to the broader scale of sort of global planet-wise, I wanted to start with a quote from the book saying, "If you're standing in San Antonio, you're standing on common ground, sharing common interests, celebrating shared heritage, history, and purpose." Why do you think San Antonio provides that, and what can other communities learn from that?
Well, I've fallen in love with San Antonio because I'm not native to this space. I've been here now 30 plus years. I've fallen in love with this place because of its nature, and that's what I've tried to describe in that statement. Mm-hmm. San Antonio in this spot in South Texas has a very challenging history. It's right at the gateway of the Americas, the corridor separating North America and Central and South America, and then the highway systems. As a result of being in this spot, you've had a confluence of cultures, as we call it. Yeah. People from all over the world, all over this continent, have congregated here or moved through here. And in that interaction, and when those collisions of different cultures and people, there's been conflict. This community has had to work through tremendous conflict. And as a result, a lot of resolution has occurred as well. And you get a community rooted in that history that is multicultural, is the site of a lot of different organizations that have been at the bedrock of human rights movements and civil rights movement, and of service to others, of service at arms. I mean, this is Military City USA. Yeah. And in those organizations, certainly for the ones focused on uplifting marginalized voices and fighting for human rights and labor rights and civil rights. In the case of the military, you have people, again, of all different backgrounds and political beliefs and faiths in uniform fighting for a cause, which is our Constitution and our democracy. Right. That's what it's based in. And so through all of that, you have a place where people, through challenge, conflict, and resolution, have found common ground, and that has made this culture very strong. It's made us respectful of our differences because through those differences we find where our intersection, where our common ground is, and we embrace that. So when it comes to the San Antonio culture and what makes San Antonio unique and special, and the values that we have to really hold on to, it's about making sure that sense that everyone matters doesn't erode. And so you've seen me as mayor when that does happen, when groups of people get targeted, when people feel like lesser value than others. Right. That's when I step in and I make statements sometimes that get me in trouble. Yeah. From a political standpoint, but I think that those are extremely important. Those moments are extremely important for leaders to step up, because that's what makes San Antonio who it is. Mm-hmm. Everybody matters, and that is the most essential value, I think, that we need to adhere to as a community.
As you said before, because after reading your book, I've learned a lot more about local government and your role in that, and getting people to remember the dignity of everyone. Mm-hmm. And if you are a student or person coming to San Antonio, or really any city, how would you recommend people begin to learn about their local government or officials within their community?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think there's so many things that we have to do better as a society to get people interested and involved. But as a resident of a community, if I'm looking to get involved in my local community, I'm just going to start, participating in things, invitation or not, neighborhood association meetings, public town halls, reading the newspaper, engaging with neighbors at community events, getting to know your neighbors, really understanding what makes a community tick, what its history is. If I want to get engaged in my community, I'm going to do as many of those things as possible. And then I'm going to vote. A lot of people just say, well, if you want to engage in your community, if you want to participate, go vote. Mm-hmm. Well, voting is one thing. Maybe it's the ultimate thing. But there's so many other aspects to civic engagement beyond just the mere act of voting.
I learned a lot through Trinity about voting for local government and such. I think Trinity does a great job of allowing students to help educate their fellow students about that process and why it's important. But prior to that, I feel like I didn't get enough information on that. Right. And I think you are a large proponent for education and helping people get engaged with that. So.
And maybe that's the journalism thing coming up again, because I do think it's easier, and government officials, elected officials, I should say, and let me separate elected officials from government. Government is all of us. Right. Elected officials, I think, have to be cognizant, self-aware enough to know that politics incentivizes us from not engaging at that level. Status quo encourages stagnation. Mm-hmm. And the more people don't engage, the more that status quo persists. And so elected officials in particular have to strive to make sure that more people get engaged, that we're constantly seeking those who are left on the sidelines, who think it's not worth their time or don't have the time, but making sure that more people are brought to the table. That runs counter to the perhaps self-interests of some, and certainly of the status quo. But we've got to fight back against that. We're a healthier democracy, obviously, when people participate, but it takes constant work on the part of the elected officials who represent the government.
Beyond sort of taking it much broader than just the activity of engaging with local government, on sort of a final question of sorts, there's the story in your book about meeting your wife, and I found that story was hilarious. And
I think that one was literal too.
Yeah, I mean, that one was great, and it made me think of, and you talk about your faith as well throughout the book, but do you believe in that sort of fate or destiny, especially in relation to that story with Erica?
I do, actually. Yeah, I do. I do talk about my faith in the book quite a bit. I certainly am in pursuit of scientific facts, data for every decision I make, but I'm self-aware enough also to know that that pursuit never ends. There are going to be things that happen and we just can't explain. And I do believe in my Creator. And, Erica came into my life at a very strange time. And hard to explain.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the part of the book that prompted that question
Yeah.
was that the taxi driver
Yeah.
that, like, I believe dropped you off or drove
I never
you and
met the
Eric
guy in
home.
my life.
Yeah, it was just, you're going to marry her. Like,
yeah.
just to say that.
Yeah. He asked me if I was going to marry her. And I
Yeah.
said, yeah. I mean, I literally just met her that night.
Yeah.
But so anyway, maybe I convinced myself in the moment, but
Yeah.
regardless, it felt a little divine at that point in time.
Yeah, from reading it, it felt that way. But the fate note aside,
Yeah.
what is your hope for the future of San Antonio?
My hope for the future of San Antonio is that we continue our pursuit of opportunity so that every person in this community, every family in this community can thrive. Mm-hmm. That's not the case today. We have tremendous challenges. We have a history of disadvantage and underinvestment. And from a tactical public policy standpoint, we've been working very hard to move us to a place of opportunity for everyone. But more on a, I guess, spiritual level, my hope is that San Antonio can retain its character and belief in itself. Because one of the things I note in the book is that San Antonio has this devil-may-care attitude about itself, that the pressures of the outside world, this notion that we have to keep up and make ourselves like other people or other communities. That's not here.
Mm-hmm.
Puro San Antonio. I hope we retain that as we grow by unbelievable speed. I hope we retain that sense that our true value is the fact that everyone belongs here and everyone matters here. So that's my hope. I think we can be one of the best places in the country and in the world because of those characteristics, and I hope we retain it. And I hope my son feels like it can be part of his future too, if he chooses it.
Yeah, that's a great vision for the future. And that was my last question. So thank you so much for answering the questions and being here today.
It's great to join you, Lily. Good luck with you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining Ron and I for another episode of exploring people, places, and our planet with Tripod. Come back soon.